Imagine waking up tomorrow with no heating, no warm clothing, no food delivery, and no way to buy any of those things, and that is simply your reality for the next 10,000 years. That was the actual situation facing our ancient ancestors, and the fact that we are here today means they solved every part of it without a single piece of modern technology. During the last glacial maximum, roughly 20,000 years ago, average global temperatures ran about 6 degrees Celsius colder than today, a difference that buried what is now London under a kilometer of solid ice. In unglaciated regions where humans actually lived, winters reached temperatures modern people with proper gear would struggle to survive for more than a week. Sea levels sat about 120 meters lower. Britain was attached to continental Europe, and a landmass called Beringia connected Siberia to Alaska. The landscape held woolly mammoths, cave bears, cave lions weighing up to 300 kilograms, and Irish elk with antlers spanning 3.7 meters, simultaneously the most dangerous animals in the world and the most critical resource keeping people alive. Fire, shelter, and the architecture of bone. Fire gets credited for warmth, and that alone would be enough, but fire was doing about 15 different jobs at once. Humans had been controlling fire for somewhere between 400,000 and 1 million years by the time serious Ice Age conditions became a survival challenge, with evidence from Wonderwork Cave in South Africa suggesting controlled use stretching back roughly 1 million years. Evolutionary biologist Richard Wrangham has argued compellingly that cooking is what allowed the human brain to grow to its current size over evolutionary time. By making food more digestible and calorie efficient, cooking allowed our ancestors to reduce their gut size and redirect that biological energy into brain tissue. Fire made us smarter. On top of that, it kept predators like cave lions away through long nights. Hardened wooden spear tips provided light during winters with 16 hours of daily darkness, dried wet clothing before hypothermia could set in, and heated enclosed spaces to survivable temperatures. Losing your fire in a blizzard was potentially fatal, making dedicated firekeepers among the most important people in any group. Caves maintained a relatively stable internal temperature of around 10 to 13 degrees Celsius year-round and blocked the wind chill that can turn an already dangerous temperature lethal within minutes. Archaeological evidence shows caves used as shelters had surprisingly organized interiors, stone-lined fire pits positioned to distribute heat efficiently, designated sleeping areas, and separate zones for tool-making and food storage. These people were not taking refuge in holes. They were deliberately planning living space. When no cave was available, they built. And what they built in parts of Eastern Europe and Siberia is genuinely astonishing. The site of Mazirich in Ukraine, dating to around 15,000 years ago, preserved circular structures constructed almost entirely from mammoth bones, femurs, shoulder blades, jawbones, and vertebrae carefully interlocked into walls, with tusks lashed together overhead as a ridge beam, the whole frame covered with stretched animal hides. Some of these structures required bones from over 150 individual mammoths, with people sourcing specific bones for specific structural purposes and transporting them to chosen sites. This was architecture, clothing, calories, and the art of surviving winter. Modern humans are naked apes, losing core heat faster than they can generate it in sub-zero temperatures without insulation. The most creative method for dating early clothing involves body lice, which live in fabric rather than directly on skin, and diverged from head lice approximately 170,000 years ago, giving us our earliest evidence of humans regularly covering themselves. By the Upper Paleolithic, between 40 and 10,000 years ago, clothing technology had become genuinely sophisticated. Bone needles from sites across Europe and Siberia are so precisely crafted, with eyes barely a millimeter in diameter, that researchers trying to replicate them using period-appropriate tools have struggled to match the quality. The Sungir burial site in Russia, dated to approximately 34,000 years ago, provides the most vivid evidence. Two children interred with thousands of individually carved ivory beads sewn into their garments. Reconstruction by researchers revealed a layered system, a close-fitting inner layer for moisture management, a middle insulating layer, and a tougher outer hide for wind and water resistance, with hoods, trousers, and boots. This is almost exactly the layered system recommended by modern mountaineering guides, arrived at 34,000 years ago through empirical trial and error across many generations. Hides were processed through brain tanning, using the animal's own brain tissue to create supple, durable, reasonably waterproof leather, and every hunted animal provided raw material for clothing, footwear, blankets, and carrying bags alongside its food. Nothing was wasted. Extreme cold raises the basal metabolic rate by 50% or more, and with the additional demands of hunting, building, and traveling, caloric requirements became enormous. Without enough food, you did not gradually slow down. You became hypothermic, your thinking deteriorated, and you died quickly. Fat was therefore the supreme nutritional currency of the Ice Age, containing more than twice the energy per gram of protein or carbohydrate, and being exactly what the body burns to generate heat. A mature woolly mammoth could weigh up to 6 tons with significant fat deposits throughout, and a single adult could theoretically provide around 500,000 calories, enough to sustain a group of 25 people for several weeks. Hunting these animals required coordinating hunts using fire and noise to drive panicking herds toward prepared kill sites or ambushing them at river crossings, each approach demanding substantial planning and collective effort. Permafrost, permanently frozen ground widespread across Ice Age Eurasia, solved food storage. Ancient humans dug caches directly into the earth and used it as a natural freezer, a practice evidenced at multiple Siberian and Eastern European sites. Meat that could not be cached was dried over fire or in cold, dry air. Fat was rendered and stored in animal bladders and something very close to pemmican, a mixture of dried pulverized meat with rendered fat and sometimes dried berries, provided calorie-dense, long-lasting portable nutrition. Autumn was not a time of rest, but of frantic collective preparation, the entire community hunting, processing, drying, and caching with the single goal of storing enough to survive until spring. Migration, intelligence, and the culture that held it together. Not every community tried to endure winter in place. Evidence for deliberate seasonal migration is widespread. Analysis of stone tools shows specific types of rock transported hundreds of kilometers between sites, meaning people moved along established routes between known locations, carrying materials from one place knowing they would need them at the next. River valleys were favored winter locations, offering protection from the worst winds, partially unfrozen water, and a convergence of game animals seeking lower ground at the same time as the humans following them. These were not improvised movements, but strategic annual migrations based on generational knowledge of landscapes spanning hundreds of kilometers. Everything above, the fire, the bone architecture, the layered clothing, the permafrost caches, the coordinated mammoth hunts, and the planned migrations, rests on one foundation: the human capacity to model future problems and invent solutions before facing them personally. No other animal operates at this level. Cave paintings at Lascaux, Chauvet, and Altamira, dating from roughly 40,000 to 17,000 years ago, may have functioned partly as visual knowledge repositories, records of local animals, their seasonal behavior, and physical characteristics maintained across generations as art and survival technology simultaneously. Bone flutes dating back 40,000 years point toward deliberate cultivation of group morale, since communities that maintained psychological cohesion through confined dark winters survived, while those that fragmented did not. Hunter-gatherer bands of 20 to 50 people were not casual social arrangements, but carefully maintained survival infrastructure built around specialists with different and irreplaceable knowledge. If this changed how you think about the people who built the foundation of human civilization, with their hands and their wits, and very little else, hit like on this video, subscribe for more deep dives into the ancient world, and drop a comment with the survival strategy that surprised you most.